We're just about to enter one of the most special places here in the city of Belfast, the Tivoli Barber Shop. Established in 1910 in the area here just off North Street, the Tivoli is situated right in the very heart of the city of Belfast. But I'll first just locate ourselves. We're standing just 50 metres from the historic centre of Belfast at the Four Corners. Lower North Street was one of the first streets in the city of Belfast, which actually was just a very small village at the time when North Street was first laid out. We're about to enter the barber shop itself, but my exhibition is in a room just in behind. The exhibition, Modelle für eine Stadt, the German title, Model for a City. My name is Declan Hill. I've 38 years experience of working in the field of architecture. I qualified from Queen's University Belfast in 1983 and spent 8 years working in London, followed by 6 years in Hamburg, Germany. During that time, I completed building projects in Dresden, in Potsdam near Berlin, and in Hamburg. For the past 10 years, I've mainly been involved in urban activism here in the city of Belfast. We have around 3 walls. We have my collection of art I've assembled since moving back from Germany. We then have 3 architectural models, and then finally the third piece is a short 4-minute video piece. The title, Modelle für eine Stadt, comes from the German book of the same title, which was written about a building project that took place in Berlin between 1984 and 1987, just 2 years before the wall came down in Berlin. The project, the International Bauausstellung, known as IBA, was far-reaching in building new housing, both in existing buildings and in new buildings throughout the former West Berlin. Because West Berlin at the time was still suffered huge areas where car parks left behind from the Second World War, and with the wall going through the city, it also had huge amounts of dereliction and open spaces. When you mention flats to anybody in Belfast, people automatically think of Divis flats, of Unity flats. What we're proposing here is totally different. The problem with Divis and other flat developments also across the UK is there was no definition of private and public space. The flats were open to anybody, could walk in and could basically walk up the stairs, take the lifts up, could then use the walkways at high level for any purpose at all. So what we have here, the three models. The first model is basically consists of books and things, and books that have influenced my thinking on my education on architecture. The second model is a typology of housing that is built all over Germany. And the third part is where I apply that typology to Belfast. The housing typology is basically 4-storey, 2-bedroom flats built around a courtyard space. And this typology of housing with a staircase feeding just 2 flats per floor, unlike Divis Towers and the housing blocks that they built all over the UK, where they had the streets in the air, large streets at high level feeding off 20, 30 flats. The model used in Germany has only 8 flats per staircase, so it's much more controllable. This typology of housing was built certainly 6 or 7 large areas of Berlin, one in particular by the architect Bruno Taut in 1906, built a whole swathe of land for Siemens, the manufacturing company, and they built housing basically for the workers. So what we have here are basically on 3 sides we have the 4-storey blocks, and I've conveniently used cigarette boxes just for construction of the model, and the 10 packs just fit the scale quite well. So one cigarette pack actually represents 2 flats. And I say what we have the streets running through is very much what I have here is very much just a simple grid, and just to show the typology with a U-shaped block, landscaped courtyard, private courtyard in the middle, and then a smaller building just to make sure that with the orientation letting light into the courtyard, with living rooms on one side, bedrooms to the other, depending on the orientation, so that the living rooms and the balconies always have south or west facing. The courtyard space is built on 3 sides with a small pavilion building, so that people enter through the pavilion and enter into the courtyard. Or people also have the ability to enter the flats from the street level. This type of housing has been successful all over Europe for over 100 years, and it has proven a very robust housing type. When I worked and taught architects in 2001, we designed a scheme for South Dublin County Council, and we used this housing typology, and that was very successful. It was 4-storey, it was 8 flats per staircase, and it worked very well. The architects have massive issues now to deal with the pandemic. The biggest thing, the biggest challenge for architects and the biggest solution to the pandemic is ventilation and cross ventilation. And over the past 5 to 10 years, there have been a lot of new office buildings in Belfast, what they call Grade A office space. Now, Grade A office space is basically a 40 metre by 40 metre floor plate with a stair and lift core in the middle, and then just rows of workspaces. It's basically just a call centre built on stilts. And these buildings are built with air conditioning. They're built with no opening windows. They are basically sick buildings. I know a personal friend of mine who works in one, and she said that if one person catches a cold, they all catch it, because these buildings work on because they're designed for low energy, they then have recirculation of air, and sometimes up to 80% of air is actually recirculated to prevent loss of heat, and people are breathing in other people's breath, and it's a major challenge. Now, Belfast is changing rapidly, and one of the big decisions that basically will have such an impact in Belfast was a decision to move Central Station back from Maysfield to its original location on Great Victoria Street. That decision was made 5 years ago, and the plans are proceeding at the moment. There's a lot of controversy about certain aspects of the existing plans, which include the demolition of the Boyne Bridge, but that's a totally other subject. But what will happen, in whatever shape or form, a new station will be built at Great Victoria Street. Like most cities in the world, when they build a new railway station, it is very attractive to build office accommodation around the station itself. And what we have, the plan for the new station, when it is built, the trains will be running to Dublin every hour. The travel time will be reduced to 1.5 hours. So people from Belfast will easily be able to commute to Dublin to work, but also office buildings built around the station, in effect, are within 1.5 hours of the International Finance Centre in Dublin. It is a huge impact for Belfast. But what that means is that most of the new commercial office buildings in Belfast will all be based around the new station. And what that does, it liberates other areas of land in the city centre for people to live. What we have here, the plan, which is basically the confinements of the plan are 20 minutes walk from the city centre, the city centre being the Four Corners, which is just 50 metres away from the Tivoli Barber shop here down North Street. And within 20 minutes walk, in yellow, I've picked out key buildings in the city centre: the City Hall, the Waterfront Hall, the Odyssey, the new University of Ulster, the Crumlin Road Jail, and those are picked out in yellow. And what we have in red are possibilities for new housing. And what I've done, I've taken the typology from Berlin and from the typological model, and then have applied that to the plan itself. And you can see the area just opposite the Waterfront Hall, the former Sirocco site, the car parks adjacent to the Odyssey, and Titanic Quarter, which there's vast areas of land. They can now become a whole new living quarter for Belfast. Building of 2 new bridges will suddenly link the whole new living quarter to the centre of the city, and most importantly, it's only a 20 minutes walk to the new Central Station. So suddenly we have a massive scope for Belfast. I've mentioned the area just around the river for building. We've also got a huge amount of area around the New York Street M1, M2 interchange. Once the new road is in place, again, large swathes of land are liberated, and they can again become areas for building predominantly 2-storey flats. Within the city itself, all around the Cathedral Quarter, again, where we've large areas of land that has been derelict for 25, 30 years, again, they can be brought back into life. What we have here is a model of the area which I showed, the Sirocco Works, the area around the Odyssey, and the car park of the Odyssey. So we've taken the typology of the 4-storey 2-bedroom flats, which we've shown on the bench, and then applied it in detail to the areas of Belfast. And you can see the variety of spaces that are created and the sheer volume. Now, I've only built the model on one story. But we can see the sheer volume of housing that we can deliver if we use this typology. We can really reinvigorate the city of Belfast by people living again in the city centre. In contrast to Dublin, to Cork and to many of the UK cities, one of the legacies of the Troubles here in Belfast is the lack of people who live actually in Belfast city centre. And I see this as a 20-year plan. Basically, for the next 20 years, this plan was launched just before Christmas in 2020. And I see it as a 20-year plan, 2020, basically to build a whole new living quarter and to have people back living in the city of Belfast.